Welcome into the latest edition of ESPN FC. I'm Dan Thomas, joined by Shaka Hislop and Stevie Nicol. Wake up! If you've just been watching the England game, it is finished. England drew 0-0 in the end, which is enough to see them advance to the knockout stages. They're also joined by Slovenia as well. It was not the best, but we've kind of heard that before, haven't we? For more on this, let's welcome in, shall we? Frank LeBeuf is with us, Mario Malchior as well. Stevie, it's the first time you've been on since your vacation to the Jersey Shore, since England's performances over the last couple of games. What's wrong?
Well, there seems to be no connection from back, middle to front. I mean, there's no connection whatsoever. They can't pass the ball out from the back particularly well. The midfield isn't particularly connecting with the front players. And then the front three are not connecting with each other. So, guess what? You don't create chances, you don't score goals. Kind of the story of England's tournament so far.
Can I be a little more positive than after the Denmark game?
Oh, you can try.
Because but you didn't see the Denmark games. Honestly, that was bottom. That was rock bottom. That was we're on our way to Australia. There were flashes today, weren't there? When Cole Palmer came on.
In that case, yes, I'll agree. In that we endured roughly an hour of simply awful football.
Yes.
And then you're looking for a spark, and Menu comes on, and it just looks so cool and composed through midfield. You wonder why he hasn't played a more prominent role so far. Then Cole Palmer comes off the bench, and as per the commentators, that drew the largest cheer from the England fans. And at least you saw him trying to do something a little bit different, a little bit out of the box. But up until that point, the English are so poor, it's amazing to me. In that you look at this squad and all that we spoke about coming into the tournament, the talent that England were able to call on, them being among the favourites to lift the title, and seeing their performances throughout, and again during the course of the day, it was impossible to explain. And I credit TV for trying to say that there was no connection, but you have incredibly talented footballers who play at the highest level. To me, it looked like the most nervy performance I'd seen from a major international outfit that I've seen for some time. Yet we're talking about players who've just finished winning the Champions League, players who are winning the Premier League, players who week in, week out play under similar pressure for their club teams, yet all of a sudden just look decidedly average in an England shirt. And it's hard to understand or explain why there's that disconnect.
Lots of question marks over Gareth Southgate and his coaching, Frank. And what was interesting today was the fact that it didn't work in the opening game against Serbia. It didn't work against Denmark, but yet he stuck with the same plan. The only change, obviously, Conor Gallagher coming on for Trent Alexander-Arnold. But that isn't exactly tearing up the plan, is it? It's sticking to this same rigid plan that Southgate seems to be obsessed with, which isn't working.
Yeah, that's sad because he's becoming very stubborn right now, and when you see that once it doesn't work, twice it doesn't work, maybe thrice, you will have to change something, and he didn't. And the no connection, no chemistry between the players were very obvious today, and you don't feel that something's going to happen. The first 5 minutes, I saw two English players saying, "Okay, guys, calm down." Calm down. No, you have to put the rhythm on. You have to give the pace of the game. Otherwise, you're not going to surprise the Slovenian. And that's unbelievable. And nobody takes any risks. Like, nobody wants to take the leadership. That's unbelievable. And you can name names. You know, when you see Bellingham, Rice, Kane, they are leaders. They should be there. Walker, come on, Stones. We can name so many others. And you say, how come those players can't take the leadership and say, okay, guys, you know, we don't care what the coach says. We have to prove we're on the field. It's a game of intuition. So let's go for it. There is no feeling, no intuition. We're going to talk about France, and I'm going to copy what I'm saying right now with England. But that's crazy. I mean, it's maybe due to the bookers who say that England and France were the favorites. They're showing the complete opposite of that. And right now, I'm questioning the way they play and how they're going to perform in the last 16th.
Mario, have you got an explanation for this? And you've got the best player in Spain, the best player in England, Harry Kane, of course, leading scorer in Germany. How do all these players put an England shirt on and look like they're rubbish twin brothers?
No, look, I worked on the games too, and when we talked about it, the key thing is, I think it's like there is no surprise. When you play the game, you also have to surprise your opponent. Like sometimes you have to eliminate a player, and I don't see that. Like Frank highlighted, like a Foden. So I want to see them dribble past someone so they can create at least one man less and then attack. But I don't see that. So the key thing for me is that, and the tempo is so low for England. If you want to surprise them, they were waiting for you. And if you don't speed up the game, like sometimes you go tick, 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 tick. It looks great because you don't take any risk. But it's also that it looks great of keeping the ball, but it doesn't look great by surprising them, of really opening them up. So I think this is one of the key things, and that's why your striker is never going to get any chances. Like, okay, one, maybe he pulled them down, and the next one, they did the same thing, Gay did the same thing on the opposite side. But for me, the thing for England now is like, Harry Kane came out and said that wearing the jersey is pretty heavy. I think that's for anybody that represents his national team. But one of the key things you have to understand is that people are going to want to see the form that you have at your club playing for your country. And I think at the moment we don't see that.
I think I already know the answer to this, Stevie, but I'll ask it anyway. Is there any excuse that Slovenia knew that a draw would be enough pretty much to get them through? Hence they sat back. Hence it was more of a task for England to break down 11 men behind the ball?
No, absolutely not. And I would suggest that in the first half, there wasn't that much between the two sides. Second half, England pressured them. But they pressured them without hurting them. There wasn't a chance in the second half. You could say there was one chance in the first half. Conor Gallagher, I believe, should have got his head on it, should have put it in the net. But that was it in this game. Yeah. So I absolutely don't think you can look at Slovenia and say that they were capable of making this so tough for England. England made it tough for themselves. And let's be honest, yes, we can question things that Gareth Southgate does. But when you've put a team on the field with the names on the jerseys against a side like Slovenia, who you saw at the end of the game, this is utopia to get through the group. But it's not good enough from the England players. And I'm absolutely not putting all the blame on Southgate.
Right.
Players have to play, they have to get their head right, they have to get their attitude right, and they have to go and produce. And you can't always just blame the manager for putting the wrong people in the wrong spot. And you certainly can't do it. With the amount of players that you said, Harry Kane, top man in Bayern, Bellingham, top man in Spain. I mean, go through the whole side. John Stones. Yeah. I mean, go through the whole team. The players are responsible. And one of the stats we heard during the game just sums it all up. That Phil Foden had only connected with one pass with Harry Kane halfway through this game and two previous games. That tells you all you need to know.
What's going on with someone like Jude Bellingham?
Well, Jude Bellingham's a guy who's at his best, certainly in an attacking sense, getting in the box late. But when you're not sure what's going on around you, particularly in the wide areas, when to go, when to stay, when to get involved, then you're kind of wasting a lot of energy running around trying to figure out who's going to put it in. If it goes in a certain spot, surely you're going to whip it. And then whenever it isn't that right spot, he makes his run, the ball doesn't come, they come back out, they go all the way around. So a guy like Bellingham, who thrives on doing damage to the opposition in their penalty box, has no idea when to go and when to
So with Bellingham, you can offer up an excuse because of the system?
I think with Bellingham, you can offer up an excuse because...
What about Harry Kane?
Playing Trent Alexander in the middle of the park on the first two games absolutely didn't work. Conor Gallagher absolutely didn't work. And we saw when Menu came in the second half, whether that was to do with Slovenia running out of steam or England putting pressure on, Menu made it better. And that freed up, in my opinion, Bellingham to get involved a lot more.
What about Harry Kane?
I can't help thinking Harry Kane's not 100% fit. Because if he is, then he's just looked gassed.
Right.
because he just doesn't look sharp. He don't. I mean,
Isn't that something you could tell in training, though? Couldn't you tell that there's a problem with?
if I'm Gareth Southgate and Harry Kane is 80% fit, I'm playing Harry Kane.
Right.
It's just that simple. I'm playing Harry Kane.
Look,
And I do
Dan.
not believe, sorry, Shaq, I do not believe that Harry Kane was brought off against Denmark for any other reason than he was feeling it.
Go on, Frank.
Yeah, you remember that I got mad of Nagelsmann for not
Yes.
resting some players on the third game, and I could say the same with France, but I can say that also about England. I mean, they play against Slovenia. With all due respect, you know that with the players that you have on the bench, you have the right to think that it could be enough to beat them or at least draw with them to get the first spot in the group stage. So why don't you rest some player? I think Bellingham is not looking good because of the system, but because maybe he's a little bit tired as well. And you have the right to rest some players because the competition is not over. I mean, the hardest way, the other state, is gonna be next in the last 16, and after we'll have the quarterfinal and semi. And according to everybody, England has to win it. So why don't you rest Bellingham or Kane for at least one game, the third game where you're almost sure to go through, and then get fresh player for the last 16. Makes no sense for me. And Deschamps did the same today, where they were already qualified. He rested only a little bit Griezmann. Nagelsmann didn't do anything. I don't know what's wrong with those new era of coaching, but it doesn't work for me. And you have players completely exhausted by a long season, but on top of it, you play them, and they're not performing well.
To answer that, I don't think Gareth Southgate feels he's in a position to rest players because of how poor they've been so far this tournament, because of the criticism that he's come in for. That all of a sudden now he makes changes, and those changes are some of the changes that the media and fans have been asking about, and it works. And now all of a sudden you look silly. Because you're proving yourself wrong. And then what do you do in the next games in trying to bring back what you think is your starting 11? So I think the fact that Gareth Southgate does not rest players is because of poor decisions to start with, how poor England have been, and the criticism that they've come under. He just doesn't have that confidence. Now, for me, when I watch England play today, and it's good that we have two defenders on with us, but I felt that every single time, either centre half and Walker in particular, whenever they got the ball, every single time was 3 and 4 touches. Every single time. And as a result, Slovenia can just drop off. Yeah, he gets the ball, he takes 3 touches, they figure out where everybody is, they move it over to Stones or to Walker, he takes 3 or 4 touches, and they just shift over. So they, at no point, to your previous question about the ineffectiveness of Jude Bellingham, it's because every time a defender picks the ball up, every time the play starts, by the time that first ball is played into midfield, there's just no space because that defender's already taken 3 and 4 touches. Right. So there is absolutely no way that anybody could find any space. And then from Slovenia's point of view, then when they dwell on the ball and they make at times risky passes out to the back, Slovenia's just winning the ball back 20 yards, 30 yards away from England's goal. So they were having really good possession. They changed in the second half slightly, and England were a lot better. Well, a lot better than they were in the first half. In the second half, but that for me kind of spoke to why England just can't take a game by the scruff of the neck.
Mario?
Yeah. No, for me, it's more like, like what I said that, and Chaka, I think, highlighted it too. The tempo of the game. If you the way they play their teams, right? They have the influence of maybe from different countries and whatever, it doesn't matter. But they're all trained with certain attitudes in the sense of you got to speed up the game, it's too slow. But then what I feel is also, why does it take so long to if you see that, let's say you want to take off a Foden, right? You don't like the way he doesn't take the risk that you expect him to be or dribble past people. Why does it take so long to put Gunnar on? And then Palmer, you understand, why are those kids have to wait that long to get the opportunity? If you know already what position you are, and I think Frank highlighted it too, you know, like if you know that you're already a step ahead. But guys, come on, those guys are part of your group because they're talented. So then I also say, like, put them on because they want to prove your wrongness. And that is sometimes good as a coach because we all been in a position, you know, when you sit on the bench, let me tell you, I'm boiling and I'm waiting for him. Just even if he gives me 5 minutes, man, I'll make it look like it was 10 minutes he gave me. And you made a mistake, coach. And I want him to do that and allow him to go out there. It takes him too long sometimes to bring the guys on.
What's interesting is that the way that the draw has worked out is that the big boys, your likes of Portugal, Germany, France and Spain, are on one side of the bracket and England are on the other side of the bracket. That is why ESPN Bet have England as favourites to go all the way and win this tournament because obviously the argument is it's very difficult to put all your money on a side of the bracket that contains the big boys, and it's a lot easier for England. So is there anything, Frank, is there any psychological advantage that England have of being like, right, look, we've won a watch here. We've scraped through this group. You know, we've got the good side of the draw. Now we need to kind of almost rip up the plan. It isn't working. What will work is bringing in the likes of Manu and Cole Palmer just to open things up, to up that tempo. Do you think Gareth Southgate has got the guts to go and do that in this first knockout stage?
No, I don't think so. I think he knows that he's been very fortunate and to avoid France, Spain, and Portugal and Germany. But I think he's going to be scared of playing Switzerland because they're very solid. They're not as good as maybe the others, but I tell you, they're going to surprise. And you can name others, you know, the Netherlands, they're going to wake up. I mean, they were very in reaction today, but they're going to be somehow in action. And they know, everybody knows that for England, it doesn't work right now. But I don't think Gareth Southgate is capable of doing something. Why he didn't change on the third game and he will change on the last 16th? There is no reason. He's going to be hammered if he loses because he changed some players and put some players, so-called the most talented players, on the bench. So no, he's not going to change anything. He's going to be late on substituting players for sure because he's going to be hoping that the players on the field will perform at some point. So it's really, and Stevie alluded it today, it's really up to the players to take the leadership and to change something for England, because otherwise they're not going to do something good. I tell you, they're going to be surprised. See France in the quarterfinal against Switzerland 4 years ago. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. You are in a good bracket. Bye-bye. Nothing is sure.
No, nothing is sure, especially considering how terrible England have been. You're Gareth Southgate. What's the 11 you put out?
Well, I think... Is this what I would do with Gareth? Because Gareth...
No, this is you, Stevie. What would you do? You've coached. You know how to get the best out of these players to go on and try and get through to the final.
I think like all things, sometimes the theory seems good, looks exciting, but the practical's different. You know, it's one thing to say they were rotten in the first game, they were rotten in the second game, they were rotten in the third game. So you know what? Why don't you just play all these young guys?
No, not play all of them, obviously. But if it hasn't worked...
It's not going to happen.
If you were second best against Serbia, against Denmark, and awful against Slovenia for the opening act, why would you stick to that plan if it's not working?
Again, you've got players that you trust. And the people you spoke about at the start of this show, your Harry Kanes, your Declan Rices, you know, Saka's been outstanding. You got John Stones. Gahey's been good in this tournament. Trippier's always going to be at left back and Walker's always going to be at right back. Pickford's going to be in goal. Right. So really his, as far as I can see, he thinks his only conundrum in picking a team is who's the third man in the middle. I think he's going to trust these guys one more time to produce on the field.
The same 11.
And that's Foden and Saka and Kane up front. And I think as a coach, you'd absolutely go with the guys you trust. And
they haven't. They've let you down over the last 3 games.
But you know, we're saying they've let us down. But he's looking at all the other tournaments and all the other games that these guys have played in, and he's going to trust them again. He's going to trust them.
And that's the right thing to do.
Well, yes, I think the majority of them, yeah. I mean, I don't think it would change anything if you played Palmer instead of Saka. I don't think that would change. I don't think that would change anything in his mind. Is what I meant. But Foden has to play. Kane has to play. Bellingham has to play. Declan Rice has to. I mean, there's like 9 players who have to play.
Right.
And we've just sat here, Frank and I in particular, and said the players have got to take a lot of responsibility. And so, if once again you're going to give them responsibility, you're basically saying, look, you haven't been at your best, but you know what? I know what you're capable of, and I believe that you can go and take us further. We're through the group stages. It's a whole new ball game. It's a whole new competition. Let's see what you've got.
What are you doing in training between now and that game?
All you do is try to keep everybody cheerful and keep them going. Plenty of finishing, get everybody up, get everybody excited. You know, you're not doing drills to try and produce something that you haven't been trying to do over the last 12, 18 months. It's about getting everybody in the right frame of mind, get them happy, get them ready to go. And again, as I said, he's going to use that word. I'm trusted you. This is the knockout stages. There's no comeback if we mess this up. You've done it for me before. You need to do it now.
So who England's opponents will be is still yet to be confirmed. Of course, it could be Mario's Holland. It all depends on how things finish up with regards to the best third place finishing side. So that's who England will face on the bracket. Well, this is the bottom half of the bracket. We'll see Switzerland take on Italy. That is confirmed. Austria, of course, surprise winners of their group ahead of France. So it's all basically down to who is going to be in this third place ranking as to who is going to face who. And this is, you would certainly argue, maybe slightly harder side of the group.
You can argue that.
Germany played Denmark. We know that. Portugal, France and Spain still awaiting their opponents. Meanwhile, in the other game today, as Denmark booked a place against Germany, we know now that it will be 3 teams that will be going through from England's group. Serbia and Denmark played out a goalless draw. And what was it? 5 draws in 6 games in that group. Very exciting. 0-0. Serbia tried and showed us what they kind of showed us all tournaments, Stevie. They just can't score goals.
Yeah, and Denmark were much better.
Yep.
I mean, you talk about a fair result. Both teams absolutely deserved not to win the game, but they both got the point they needed.
Right, let's move on, shall we, to the earlier games, of course, still very much all to play for. We know that Poland were done. They were out. They were not going to qualify. They were finishing 4th no matter what happened today. Yet, France couldn't get past them. It was a 1-1 draw in the end. Kylian Mbappe would score a penalty. Lewandowski equalised them with a spot kick. Meanwhile, drama between the Dutch and Austria. Austria, in the end, deservedly winning by 3-2. Savitzer with the goal, which proved to be the difference between the two sides, which means, obviously, Austria then go on to the easier side of the draw, and it is just a nightmare for France, given that they've got a collision course now with Spain, Portugal, and Germany. Frank, I wonder if, like many, I saw France open the scoring. Kylian Mbappe scored 1-0. I switched over then to the Dutch game, thinking, oh, France are going to go on and win this no problem now. But you didn't. What happened?
Yeah, I think 99% of the people watching the game would have thought the same thing. But Poland were better. The last 25 minutes when they conceded the goal, they went for it. They were already disqualified. So they went and they started to play well. And France had a big chance to score for Mbappe, but he completely missed his shot. And after, when Poland equalized, I felt that Poland was about to win the game. They were more, they were better, they were more accurate offensively, and they were very strong. And they almost went there for the win. And I was very surprised. We are talking about Poland, as you say, they already disqualified. They lost their 2 previous games. And they drew against France, who is one of the contenders. But that's France. France doesn't know how to dictate the game. They don't like to do so. They have a lack of efficiency at front. And it's not the first time in the competition it happened. I remember 2002 with the 3 best scorers in Europe, Djibril Cissé, Thierry Henry, and David Trezeguet in 3 different championships. We didn't score a goal in 3 games. But You can see the names: Barcola, Mbappe, Dembele. I mean, that's amazing. They had to have a penalty to score a goal. Then the 4-3-3 doesn't work. I think Deschamps, thinking about it, he has to change something defensively, where we were questioning, so Saliba, Upamecano, even if Upamecano created the foul who gave the penalty, I think they're quite solid. But in the middle of the park, three in the middle doesn't work. I think Tchouaméni and Kante will be enough. He needs Griezmann behind, and maybe, I don't know, somebody others, but not three at front. It doesn't work. And you have to, it's going to be interesting for France, but because the next game, maybe they will have the possibility to let the opponent dictating the game, and they're going to be better in counter-attack, maybe.
Frank, we've talked about this over the years, in that France never exactly blow up in the group. It's all about getting that momentum going as we get deeper into the competition. Is there any sense, is there any danger that this tastes a bit different this time?
Well, normally it's not perfect at first, but at least, they're quite convincing. And I don't find anywhere where I can say, well, you know what? Yeah, maybe in defense, but otherwise, it smells good. There is something happening. In the last World Cup, when they went to the final, I felt a chemistry between the player. I don't feel it. I'm still looking for it. They are like misunderstanding between the players. Some players don't play at the same pace, and I'm concerned about some stuff. There is selfishness at France. Well, every time they have the ball, they try to make the difference. Dembele, yes, was on fire on the penalty because the foul was on him. But otherwise, it's always, oh, what a pity. Oh, what a pity he missed. I already explained that. Mbappe, we don't know. I mean, he was pretty okay the first half. The second half, he disappeared, except on that penalty. But really, there are many, many question marks still. But yes, we have the hope that it's going to get better. They're going to be more focused on what they have to do. And they're going to find that chemistry, that feeling that we already we mostly have in a big competition when we reach the knockout stages.
How would you sum up Mbappe today, Steve?
Could have been better.
Could have been worse.
Some of France like that.
I mean, not just him, but if they take the chances, this game's finished at half time.
Yeah.
And then when they go 1-0 up, clearly Deschamps was thinking the same. So he makes all the changes. And they kind of lose their way. But there was never Poland might have had a little bit of possession that it hadn't had before, but they never looked like scoring in a million years. And then surprise, the man who's been given penalties and chances away all season when he's played, pops up and gives a penalty away at Upamecano. Shouldn't be anywhere near this French side, particularly considering the choices they have at centre-back. The fact that he's played, I said it earlier, it's the Maguire of England. Doesn't play for his club team, but somehow is playing in the national side. And they paid for it today. So I think this is probably a right good kick up the backside for them.
Right.
They should have won the game comfortably. Mbappe missed 2 one-on-ones with the goalie. And Dembele missed a one-on-one with the goalie. Barcola could have scored. So it's their own fault they didn't win. Not so much to do with Poland, but kick up the backside.
Shaq, we saw Lewandowski score the penalty. How much sympathy do you have for Mannion in the fact, obviously, that a step took him off his line and they had to be taken again?
Well, even as Lewandowski is kind of around for the penalties, TV comments, I'm not sure why this is allowed. Yeah. This is before the first penalty. And in fairness, the law says you're not allowed to come to a hard stop. Lewandowski definitely does. So to your question, I do sympathize with Mannion. No, and as I've made this point previously with other penalty takers, when takers kind of run and slow down and change pace, they are trying to draw the goalkeeper off. And as a goalkeeper, you have to be mindful of that. So on the one hand, I want to say Mannion has to be more aware, more mindful of Lewandowski's run up and the stutter step, but it's against the law. And you look at it, I think Nola on 2 occasions he comes to a hard stop, which the law tells us he absolutely shouldn't be doing. So that's a tough break for them. But for France, and I thought it was not a great game by any stretch of the imagination on their part. absolutely should have won against a decidedly poor Poland team. They've been poor for quite some time. But you take it, and the thing for me, and the difference between France and England, when you look at France, and today kind of highlighted it. Once Deschamps makes those changes, you look at the players that France can call on, that really can change everything about their game. Now we question whether Gareth Southgate can do the same with his substitutes and what kind of impact they can have. You look at Deschamps, you look at that bench, and my goodness, it could change in a heartbeat. So I'm less critical or less concerned about France than I am of England, outside of the fact that, as we mentioned, the two halves of the bracket can be more different.
You were renowned for changing your pick, Shaka, obviously famously after Argentina lost.
I don't know what
in
you're
the
talking about. I don't remember that as well.
If I gave you the opportunity to change your pick now from France, would you take it?
No.
Despite the fact that they're on the old...
I'm not. The French probably want me to change.
Yes, yes, indeed.
You know, Frank would probably be more than happy if I changed, because that's a good omen.
Yes.
But no, I'm sticking with France.
What are you smiling at?
No, I'm smiling at because you say, oh, France are going to look at all the other teams, but I can assure you, all these other teams have went, why is France on our side?
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Austria. Well, thanks, Holland. Blame the Dutch.
Exactly.
Yeah, we definitely thought that. We definitely thought that. But we thought that too. On our side, we were looking at, we're like, oh, France, oh my God, this is going to be a big problem. But one of the things when I see, like I hear you guys talking, I think also some of the teams that France are facing now are also aware of, like, okay, away from the talent, also the way they play. You know, like, because my past was also in France playing, and the counterattack is one of the key things, you understand? I think Frank already highlighted that. I remember I used to come to training and I had to warm up as a counterattack. So everybody knows it, even in Holland, when we knew we were going to play them, they were going to play like that. But the only thing is now is that they have to come up with something else, because they have so much talent, but they have to come up with some of the individual surprises, because if not, it's just going to be one of those things that people are going to sit back and just wait, and hopefully they are fitter than them. That's the only thing they're playing them now.
Meanwhile, of course, your Dutch side was involved in arguably one of the games of the tournament so far, Mario. Austria, in the end, getting across the line with a 3-2 victory. Let me ask you this first. Is this result a surprise?
No, I wasn't surprised, and I'm going to tell you why. Because I saw Austria playing against France, and they were so fit. And even Anatovic came out, and because he still speaks Dutch because he played in Holland before, he said, look, when we are very energetic, we are very fit. And so when a player says that to you, because I know before the tournament, if you don't have the ability like a France or like a Germany or like, a Portuguese side, then you need something else. And they are bringing something else. Their fitness is at a high level. What did Holland do? They're going to compete in making it be a test on that level. Competing with a side, a country like that, and going up and down with them, you don't do that. You don't spread the game wide open and try to attack them like that. And then, for me, you understand, they started off wrong. Okay, the own goal, we know that situation. But then, it's a bit like, maybe we know him from playing at Man U, but then the way he played that game, I saw him flicking balls up, taking his time, running the clock down. I was like, oh my God, this is going to be a game that they're going to play the game exactly how they wanted it. They wanted Holland to think like, let's go. We go against each other and we're going to break you down.
So who's getting the blame, Mary? Can you offer up an excuse? Obviously, your midfield's been decimated by injuries. Do you blame the fact that obviously you haven't got those players available? Is Ronald Koeman getting stick? Or it just isn't that talent level there that we expect with Holland?
We had a little situation with a guy like, Furman. He played the game, and there was a sad moment because he took him off after, 20-something minutes. He took him off, and normally he's the guy with great passes and everything. And he was very emotional when he took him down. Why? Because he didn't look like himself. Even Koeman came on TV, he said, like, I don't know what happened to him. So that was one of the keys. So there's already one man less. And then after the game, you see, some of the players go back to their family. It's almost like, when you get a hit and then you try to comfort yourself and being around them. I understand that, but sometimes, moments like this, just think about the game sometimes. And then Schouten, he was like, those two played together at PSV. They won the league. But playing for your country and competing with the people at the highest level is a different show. Southgate was I have never seen a player that tired. He was incredible tired. The guy was like literally the last couple of minutes. I looked at him and I was like, what's going on with him? He was walking in the box. He was so tired. I looked at him and I was like, no, this is not normal. You cannot play the game like that. So some of the players in the national team of Holland, I feel like when it really comes down, and I felt like at the World Cup, we had the situation with Argentina. I always said, like, when men need to turn up, sometimes they have to be careful because you cannot play like nice boys. You got to play sometimes like bad boys. And sometimes we don't always have that in us because we want to play the beautiful football. But the beautiful football sometimes also need the other side. And the other side, sometimes you need to man up and be tough sometimes. And I thought today we couldn't show that because they showed it to us.
You don't want to face Austria, do you, in this tournament?
No, they're like a wee tank, like a wee truck that just keeps going forward. And no matter what you do, they don't go backwards.
Yeah.
And you can't knock them over.
It's like you when you see shepherd's pie.
Exactly.
That's it.
Pretty much the same. Pretty much. Just batting away. You can't knock me down out the way. You can't stop me going that way.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so no, they're probably the dark horses of this knockout stage. You know what you're up against. But sometimes, even though you know what you're up against, sometimes you can't stop it. So that's where the Austrians are.
Could be Netherlands against England. Oh, sorry, Frank.
No, the thing is for me, because of that third or four of the third in the group stages are qualified, you know, you start to make calculation, and I saw the Netherlands not being desperate to draw against France, which is a good result, but not going for it, thinking that a draw would be maybe enough for the third game to keep the second spot, and in fact it wasn't. And they were today, as I said before, they weren't acting. They were reacting in everything. They started the game very slow. They conceded the goal very, very early, and then they didn't react. And we saw Austria conducted or dictating the game most of the time. And it's only when Gakpo equalized that we saw the Netherlands waking up. And it's, for me, it's because of that system that you don't need to rush anything. You just have to calculate a little bit. And if you're not too bad, you're going to go through. So I think that competition is going to start for the next round, really, because so far I didn't see something special from the contenders or the so-called better team. I saw mostly bigger performances from Austria and so many others that I say Turkey against Georgia. That was great. I mean, there are teams that I like more than the contenders because the contenders show nothing because they calculate.
I thought Austria playing with house money, and when you're a smaller nation, a tournament such as this, and the expectation isn't kind of something you're bringing with you, it's kind of freeing. And let's be honest, I know I'm not alone here. Gakpo scores, and you think, oh, that's it. Here come the Dutch. Was nice. Was nice, Austria. 10 minutes later, Schmidt scores. And then Depay scores, and I thought, oh, wow, that was good. Plucky Austria. That's the end. The Dutch are going to run away with this. 5 minutes later, Sabitzer scores. And at that point, at the points that Holland get their goals, there's probably only 11 players on the planet who thinks that this game is anything but over, and they were wearing the white of Austria. So credit to them. To earlier question, England against the Netherlands. I mean, on paper, that's a fantastic tie.
Yes, in practice.
On practice, given what we've seen so far. Given what we've seen so far.
My God.
It really is. It really is just like...
We will know by this time. It's all up in the air. We will know by this time tomorrow exactly who will be facing who in the round of 16. So many questions. Yeah, so many questions about England continue to roll in on extra time. We'll be addressing them with Frank, with Mario, with Shaka, and with Stevie as well. So be sure to check it out. Now, if you're watching us on YouTube, thank you very much once again for joining us the live stream. Switch over now to ESPN Plus for the remainder of the show.